Hey guys!
Hey, you going?
Welcome back to a brand new video here on the channel. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at your unpopular opinions because I fucking love doing this stuff. I love seeing what you guys bring to the table in terms of a good old unpopular opinion. It's also a good bit of a discussion, good talking points, and the variety is just amazing. Always love checking this stuff out. Always just nice to have you guys involved with videos like this. So I got 20 odd unpopular opinions after putting it on the community tab of this channel. So thank you very much for everyone that submitted them. This is round 2. I've done a video months and months ago, so expect many more to come. So if your unpopular opinion wasn't in this video, hopefully in the next one, but let's get to it. The first one comes from Grey Skull Prime 9286. Joker is overrated. It's just an unrelated story about mental illness that Todd Phillips wanted to make, and they slapped the DC logo on it to sell the movie. You wouldn't believe how much hate I get for this one. I can only imagine, man, and I learned that the hard way after my reaction video for the teaser trailer for Joker 2. I got raked through the coals even though I didn't come out and overtly say that I hated the teaser trailer. It just wasn't what I was expecting at first. I had people saying, shame on you. I had people saying, well, you're going to watch it anyway. No shit, of course I'm going to watch it anyway. Upon further reflection and watching it a couple more times, I've definitely warmed to it, but you'd think I'd come out and overtly said I just hate the whole fucking thing and I'm not going to watch it. So I understand that when it comes to fans of Joker and eventually Joker Part 2, you got to tread carefully. It's like up there with Star Wars fans, like hardcore Star Wars fans. Now, in regards to it was originally a movie about mental illness and they've slapped the DC template over it, the Joker template, and the world of Gotham, and then a young Bruce Wayne. I've heard that too, and I can totally see that being a completely different story with completely different characters to begin with. Do you mean like you're coming from a perspective of they're kind of glorifying mental illness and stuff like that and putting it front and center? Because I can definitely see that as well. I think, like, I thoroughly enjoyed the first Joker. I thought it was really, really well done. From a technical standpoint too, I think if I had to like go in and change anything, it would probably be, and it's not a diss on the makeup all, it's the makeup design on Joaquin Phoenix. It's very kind of neutral in the middle, but I know it's a period piece. We're in the 80s in Gotham, and it definitely does look a bit different. I think obviously what they created with Jack Nicholson and Heath Ledger's Joker makeup is just so like iconic and top tier. It's hard to top those two looks. But I can see where you're coming from. It's be a bit overrated and also possibly glorifying mental illness. I definitely would like to get confirmation from Todd Phillips because he obviously watches all my videos, whether or not the script started as something completely different and he just wanted to tell a story about mental illness. And like you said, slap the DC logo, the DC template over it to help sell it, and then Warner Brothers were like, yeah, let's do this. The next one comes from Dad and Video Games. Friday the 13th Part 5 is one of the best in the series. The characters, the kills, the atmosphere, it's amazing. You got Demon, Reggie, Violet, freaking Joey, mustache cocaine guy. So I feel Friday the 13th Part 5 has like renaissance, like say Elm Street 2 or Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now for those who haven't seen Halloween 5 and intend to, possible spoiler alert, but it's not actually Jason. It's a copycat. Someone by the name of Roy. And it's funny when you think about it, man. It was all because of a candy bar at the beginning with Roy's son. So Roy's the paramedic. Roy then goes on to become a copycat killer like Jason with the hockey mask, with a machete and wearing coveralls. And I actually like it. Upon further viewing, I really like it. I actually also really like Friday the 13th Part 6. But from memory, a porn director directed Friday the 13th Part 5. So the abundance of titties and nudity in this one like greatly outweighs the rest of the series. It's crazy. So I definitely have fun with it. And I think, like I said, it's also renaissance as well. So you're not wrong there, man. It's definitely a damn good installment in the series, even though it's not Jason. The next one comes from Tom Pollock Jr. 144. Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors is the best film in the franchise, including the original. It gives Freddy a creepier, more definitive origin and ending with killer music to boot. Peak Freddy. Okay. In terms of Peak Freddy, I definitely see that because we're about to go into the MTV version of Freddy with the Dream Master, and I think that's definitely, I wouldn't say that's where he peaked, that's where he became, like, as Rennie Harlan, who directed Elm Street 4, said, James Bond. But I think with Elm Street 3, that is that perfect balance of dark, mean, comedic one-liner Freddy, but it does it in a way where they're all balanced out, all those elements, in a nice way where it's not over the top with each of those elements of his character in that film. I still personally prefer, and I kid you not, he's standing right here. Hang on, I'll take a photo and show you. Clean my fucking lens. It's all grubby. So this is what I have staring at me when I film. My life-size Freddy that's just cut his fingers off. So that's obviously from the first Elm Street. I prefer Elm Street 1 Freddy. And it ain't to take away anything from Elm Street 3 Freddy, or hell, even Elm Street 2 Freddy. Elm Street 2 Freddy I think is the meanest. But also, I do like how they also balance part 1 Freddy. And I love that he's hidden in the shadows. He doesn't really say much. It's just relied on, you know, that makeup selling it and Robert's performance through that makeup. But definitely if you want, like, the idea of Freddy Krueger from someone who isn't an expert on the Elm Street films to be like, oh, I know who Freddy Krueger is. It's definitely Dream Warriors Freddy. Like, they definitely balanced it well. I just prefer part 1 Freddy. And I'm always going back and forth whether or not I like the original Elm Street 1 or Dream Warriors is my favorite. Like, it's always going around in circles whether I go back and forth between those two. And like Elm Street 2, I definitely have a fond nostalgia for now. And like, that's definitely Renaissance for me. I think that's just a great interpretation of Freddy that's just dark and mean. Damian Wayne 8701 says, Daredevil 2003 movie with Ben Affleck is awesome. I would say it cops too much shit sometimes. I think people jump on the bandwagon to hate on it just for the sake of hating on it. Just like, and I know I'm going to get shit for this because I'm the only one on the internet that seems to somewhat have enjoyed it, like Rebel Moon. Anything that has Zack Snyder's name on it, people sometimes automatically just hate on him for the sake of hating on him. And I feel that's the same with Daredevil 2003. If you watch the director's cut, I think the director's cut really does justice to what the director's vision originally was, and that's why they do director's cuts. But it definitely is an improved version than what we got with the theatrical cut. I don't mind at all. I think Affleck's performance is pretty decent as Daredevil / Matt Murdock. It definitely has that early 2000s Tobey Maguire vibe to it, where comic book films were still trying to figure their shit out and figure out what exactly to do with the genre and how to make it look good, sound good, and tell a story. And I love his costume too. I really dug what Jose Fernandez, who eventually went on to found Ironhead Studios and went on to make Ben's Batfleck suit and then Gal's Wonder Woman suit, and then they just do all the superhero suits now. I love what he did with the leather attire on Affleck and all the various iterations of the cowl and stuff like that. It's good. Like, Colin Farrell as Bullseye is just absolutely bonkers, but I feel it kind of works. And Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin, fucking class act, man. Like, I wish that guy was still around. It'd be so cool if they got him back as Kingpin for, say, like, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine, or just a cameo in some multiverse version of an MCU film. I think that'd be great. I really dug him as Kingpin. So I agree, there are a lot of good elements in that film. Collect to Disconnect says, Uncharted: The Oxford Redemption is the greatest short film of all time. You wouldn't be just teasing a girl like that, would you? 7967 says, Tyler Mane is the best interpretation of Michael Myers. Ooh, I'm gonna have to disagree, but I put Tyler Mane in the brutal Myers category, like the big buff Myers category. So we've got Tyler Mane, we've got Don Shanks, and we've got George P. Wilbur. Even though George P. Wilbur is a bit more solid, not in a muscle sense way, but then you got Don Shanks in Halloween 5 that was definitely the more bigger, brutal Michael Myers, and then Tyler Mane came along and was just fucking brutal. Like, that opening dream sequence in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in the hospital is just insane, and that just, I think that performance there solidifies his brutality as Michael Myers. I think one of the biggest setbacks for me with the first Rob Zombie Halloween is seeing too much of him incarcerated and then seeing him talk as well as a kid, and then he eventually stops talking. I just feel they kind of revealed a bit too much, where if they just had started from the get-go of him being adult Michael Myers that brutal, I'm like, why? Why is someone that brutal? And that's not to take away from Tyler Mane's performance. I think he did a pretty good job. But again, he's in his own category, like that really brutal Michael Myers. And James Hugh Courtney was brutal and also big as well, like quite bigger than Nick Castle, who was, I think, 5'10", from the original Halloween. Then Dick Warlock is like 5'9". So you've got your smaller Michael Myers, you got your medium size, then you got your big fuck off football player Michael Myers. Parking Lot 77 says Halloween H2O is the best Halloween sequel. Oh, That is a very unpopular opinion to a lot of people, but 9-year-old me would have agreed with you at the time. So Halloween H2O was the first Halloween film that I had ever watched. It was on TV one night. Dad taped it, much like how he taped Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. I loved it. I thought it was so good because I was a product of the 90s. I was a product of growing up around the Dawson's Creek era, and obviously Kevin Williamson had a hand in Halloween H2O with that kind of Dawson's Creek effect on the feel and the theme of the film. And it's crazy. I forget how short that film is. Like, it flies by. And I think it's aged okay. It's not the greatest in the series, but I still find enjoyment in it. I think the soundtrack's banger. Like, Creed, man. Those end credits with Creed. What's this life for? We could never find. What's this life for? In terms of the design of Michael Myers, I like the Winston mask, but I just wish they hadn't have revealed his eyes, and his eyes are so close to the actual mask. We had the K&B mask, but just looked weird and just not scary at all. Like, on paper, the film reads really well, but it obviously has those cheesy late 90s, early 2000s elements. Chef Matt Review says, I think Rob Zombie is an incredibly underrated director. While I wasn't necessarily a fan of what he did with the Halloween franchise, I do think there is one specific horror franchise that if he were to be given the reins of, it would actually be very fitting for his particular style of filmmaking. That franchise being the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Given the tone of films that he has done, such as House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, I feel like that particular style would work perfectly for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. I agree 100%, and I had not thought of that until reading this. I think you're spot on, man. When it comes to over-the-top gore, brutality, and not wackiness, but there's that dark humor injected into some of the Chainsaw Massacre films, where there's something so bad going on up on screen, horrific, and you got Leatherface, like, you know, being bombastic and silly. I definitely think Rob Zombie could tap into that and do something genius, different, and quite frankly intriguing. And I think House of a Thousand Corpses is definitely an example of what he could do with the Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I'm not going to say it's on par with the aesthetic and the feel, but it's definitely headed in the right direction. So that's great, man. I totally agree with that one. 100%. Never thought of that until now. Like, obviously, he's had the Munsters in the last couple of years, and that didn't fare too well. Chainsaw Massacre? I'd love to see him do that. Leander6149 says, Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy was only sorta okay. Run while you still can. When The Fellowship of the Ring came out, I think I was in year 7 or year 8. I was obsessed. I still have my DVD signed by John Rhys Davies, who played Gimli. Lovely bloke. Met him here at Con. And he told my mate to join the army because it'd make a man out of him. So that was great. Arif took that advice really well. But I love the original one. I was obsessed with Lurtz, the end fight with Boromir and Lurtz and Aragorn. And then I watched The Two Towers and Return of the King. And even though Return of the King is like rated as one of the greatest films of all time, and like those films just swept the Oscars, I watched Two Towers and Return of the King. I was like, like, they're really good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I just have this fond... It's probably nostalgia goggles for the first one, for Fellowship of the Ring. I have not seen the extended editions, like the big Hungus Chungus Fungus, big fuck off, 24-hour extended cuts of the film. I don't know if that's worth watching. I don't know if that'll change or cleanse my palate on these films. So sort of okay. Yeah, like, to me, like, then my question to you is, what is, like, your greatest film franchise of all time, or epic franchise that's kind of on par with Lord of the Rings? Because you need the measuring stick there. Matt Kirby 5151, Pirates of the Caribbean needs Johnny Depp to be successful. I agree. 100%. Those films wouldn't be what they are without Johnny Depp's performance. And I saw an article a couple of weeks ago there thinking of rebooting the franchise at one point. And then at one point, Margot Robbie was going to play a female Captain Jack Sparrow. And look, usually I don't really care about all that, as long as it's done in a tasteful, subtle, and a way that has purpose and makes sense. And you're not just forcing it down people's throats for the sake of doing that and appeasing people. Like, it's got to make sense. But that idea just... No, and he's obviously been burned by Disney after everything that happened with him and the court case with Amber Turd. But him as Captain Jack Sparrow just, it was always the highlight of those films. And look, they are fun films, and granted, they did go a bit downhill towards the end, especially by the 5th one. It was pretty crook. But like Curse of the Black Pearl and Dead Man's Chest, like they were fucking fun, man. They were great, but is mostly because of Johnny Depp and his performance as Jack Sparrow. Doug Palumbo says, Heath Ledger did a great job as the Joker. However, I do not think his portrayal of the Joker warrants an overly exaggerated praise it genuinely receives. Similar to Batman, once you put on the costume/makeup, the work of finding the character is mostly taken care of. That's why the role of Bruce Wayne is always harder to pull off. That is true. There is nothing to hide behind. If someone is deserving of high praise for their role in The Dark Knight, it's Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent/Two-Face. His performance is very underrated as he had to play the costume character and the straight character simultaneously. I agree. I don't agree with what you said about Ledger as the Joker. I still think it's such a cliche thing, a tour de force performance. I think because at the time, Heath was such a heartthrob and he was trying to move away from that. And when he was cast, he received a lot of backlash, much like Michael Keaton when he was cast as Batman. And then when we saw that first trailer, I was like, fuck, like we're in for something special. And I think also, I wouldn't say I'm being biased, but because he's an Australian, you know, he's only 28, he's from Perth, you know, a kid from a surfer town in Perth, which is on the other side of Australia. Like, there was definitely that sense of pride, but I didn't see Heath at all in that role. Except this is so weird. When he's in the nurse costume, you see his forearms. I'm like, oh, that's Heath Ledger's forearms. It's weird, really, really weird. And obviously when he's dressed as the cop and he doesn't have the clown makeup on and you see the scars, I'm like, well, yeah, that's Heath's eyes and all that. So I definitely think it's deserving of the praise the performance gets. But going back to Aaron Eckhart, you're onto it. You're spot on. He doesn't get enough love as Harvey Dent. And his performance was always well received, but it wasn't talked about enough. And you're right, he does have a lot more on his plate. And when you are portraying like Bruce Wayne or Harvey Dent, where you don't have makeup and a costume to help accelerate that performance, you're so vulnerable as an actor, and it's harder. Your job is so much more harder because you just got like a nice suit on, a nice 3-piece suit or anything, whatever Harvey Dent wears in the film. And then he obviously had the motion tracker dots, but that's still your raw performance. I think that's very hard. It's like with Tom Hardy as Bane, that performance is a lot more subdued, but harder because you're relying on the performance of your eyes. I just feel that makes the actor or the performer's job a lot more harder. And I definitely feel he doesn't get enough praise. I love that interview he has on Larry King, talking about working with Heath and his process as well. And I could listen to Aaron Eckhart talk all day about his process of acting. I think he doesn't get enough love. He doesn't get enough roles these days. I don't know what happened to him. He kind of just doesn't really do much anymore. Alberto Alrino 3. Johnny Sins deserves an Oscar. Fuck yeah. Sinsies is awesome, man. If you know, you know. Pip7967 says, I think Henry Cavill is very overrated as Superman. The hell was that? What was that? Oh, my screen time. I don't give a fuck. Sorry, Pip. I rudely interrupted your unpopular opinion. Okay, I think Henry Cavill is very overrated as Superman. I need more info, man. I need you to tell me why. I think he's a great Superman. I would have loved to have seen more, obviously. Maybe it's one of those things where you needed to see more to be skewed the way where he is a good Superman. He is your favorite Superman. Christopher Reeve is just in a league of his own. What Christopher Reeve did is like the most wholesome, beautiful performance as the Man of Steel. And then when Cavill came along, they're like, it's the more grounded, gritty, dark, brooding Superman. But by the end, and like with Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think his character definitely came full circle. I think he did a great job. But like, if I had the chance to see him do more along with Affleck as Batman, fucking oath I would. Like, wrap up their arcs, wrap up Affleck's arc as Batman. Like, really just give closure to all these characters. Yeah, look, each to their own, man. But I'd love to hear your reasons why you think he's overrated as Superman. Like the way he was written, stuff like that. I need to know. Monday Worship 390. As unpopular as opinions it might be, and as outrageously controversial as it might be, I'm still saying Grease 2 is superior to the original Grease. I would even go as far to say that some songs are better too. Hearsay. I guess I just always wanted to be a cool writer with Michelle Pfeiffer writing Pilly. I've only seen Grease 2 once, and that was in high school during music class. And at that time, I didn't even know there was a Grease 2, put it that way. I watched Grease 1 so many times in high school in music as well. And for some reason, we just kept watching it over and over. That and Annie. And then we watched Grease 2 once. So I don't feel I have a dog in this fight. I don't feel like I can say yay or nay to that enough. I'd have to go back and watch it. But anything with Michelle Pfeiffer, I'll say yes to. Meow. Nick Marta says Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 2005 is underrated as hell. I'd say it's like really disturbing and unsettling. And I think that's in part because of Johnny Depp's performance as Willy Wonka. He's just like, okay. I'm like, oh, I don't know how to feel about that because I'm so used to him with the deeper voice. He's like, I'm tired. I don't know where I am. And I want to go home. And like, that's just a credit to him and his great acting and how versatile he is. But there was this unsettling feeling I had watching that film. And yes, it is Tim Burton, so it's a lot darker than the original. Even though when you think about it, the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is so fucking dark. There's like a chicken getting its head cut off at one point. Footage of that when they're going down that tunnel and Gene Wilder's just going batshit insane. So I think from a certain perspective, yeah, it is underrated. I do prefer the original, but also there are elements of this film that I do like. And I think Johnny Depp went for that unhinged, uncomfortable performance that makes people go, oh, geez, you've got the willies from your performance, man. Because that's Willy Wonka. You don't know what he's going to do next. You don't know. You can't predict him. And I think that's what they achieved overall. McGovern? BVS Ultimate Edition is better than the Dark Knight trilogy. I don't think so, man. But with that being said, the BVS Ultimate Edition does improve the original cut of BVS. It definitely gives more context to a lot of things in that story. Pads out the story, adds a bit more meat to the bone. But, oh man, like with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, I mean, that's 3 films against 1. Again, like when someone said they think Henry Cavill is overrated as Superman, I need talking points. I need reasons why. I need a bit more meat on the bone with this unpopular opinion. But like I said, the BVS Ultimate Edition does somewhat improve upon how messy the original cut of BVS was. I'll agree with you on that. Read Comics AU. Terminator and The Matrix aren't good. You got a death wish, man. Again, I need context, dude. Why? So, which Terminator are you talking about? You're talking about the whole franchise? Because by the end, the franchise is pretty crook. Whereas I think Terminator 2 is superior to Terminator 1. Clearly. And when it comes to The Matrix, like, are you talking about The Matrix on a whole? The first Matrix? Are you talking about the first Terminator? So, with The Matrix, the first Matrix, loved it. Perfection. Matrix Reloaded, found enjoyment in it, but it was starting to go a bit askew, and I'm like, oh, you've lost what you created in the first one. And then by Matrix Revolutions, it was just boring. So much exposition dumping, too much talking, and I know that can be very like primitive brain, and too much talking, not enough fighting, but I'm like, what you guys did in the first one with the fights and everything, it was all edited perfectly. Like, you know, we have a lot of exposition dumping, but it worked in the first one because it was paired with a fair few amount of fight scenes. John Alexander 9312, Pixar is overrated. I'm gonna say modern day Pixar is overrated, man. Yeah, Pixar in the 90s and early 2000s, perfect. Pixar now, yeah, definitely overrated. Breezy Tears 7382, the new Halloween trilogy was not at all any good and was completely all over the place in terms of story and quality consistency. Halloween 1978 and Halloween 2 1981 are the only worthwhile movies in the franchise. David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy is definitely a mess. It doesn't know what it wanted to be. It established things really well in the 2018 film, Halloween. I think it was great. It was a good return to form. Halloween Kills was definitely a spectacle and a fun showcase of what you can do with practical effects. And it's Halloween Kills. It's called Halloween Kills for a reason because Michael goes absolutely ballistic. But then with Halloween Ends, it should have just been called The Corey Cunningham Story or Tales from Halloween or Tales from Haddonfield, tongue twister and a half, and should have just been an anthology film because Michael Myers shows up at the end and you're like, oh shit, that's right, Michael's in this one. 78 and 81, absolutely. My unpopular opinion, I prefer Halloween 2 1981 to Halloween 1978. There you go. Dr. Iron Bat Prime 2.0. I absolutely love the 2010 movie Kick-Ass. It is actually my favorite superhero movie outside of Marvel and DC movies, but it just feels very underrated these days, and not a lot of people talk about it that much. The second one from 2013 was okay in my opinion, but I almost wish we got a third one. I'm very curious on what the reboot will be like. I agree, man. When Kick-Ass came out on Blu-ray, and I was like buying up all Blu-rays left, right, and center, that was the most replayed Blu-ray I had in my collection at the time when it came out. I love it. I still love it to this day. You're right about the second one. Okay. Jim Carrey's inclusion was a strange one. And then the aftermath of that, I don't know if you know about that one, with the publicity of the film, and he refused to do it just because of things that were going on in the States at the time. But going back to the first film, love it. Loved Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kick-Ass. Chloe Grace Moretz as Hit Girl, and then obviously you've got Nicolas Cage there as Big Daddy. And I just love how he mimicked Adam West's Batman for Big Daddy. I'm like, just the way he speaks, and yes, kick ass, yes. I'm like, that's so cool. It's genius, and it's just that satire, that piss take, but at the same time, it's a good looking film. Mark Strong as the bad guy. You got McLovin in there as well. It's just so good, so underrated, and you're right, not a lot of people talk about it enough these days, but back in the day, that was my once most replayed Blu-ray in my collection. Done Dude Zero. I don't think Jackie Earle Haley's Freddy was that bad. I really dig his overall design, from the more realistic burns to his more intricate looking glove. Obviously, I don't like him being a chomo, but them taking it into that direction didn't really surprise me. I believe it's Nightmare on Elm Street 4 that you can see Albert brief shot of a newspaper calling him a child predator. I did not know that. I have to go back and check that out in Elm Street 4, man. And obviously there's the notion of it in Freddy vs. Jason with the prologue. And yeah, I think Jackie got the shit covered end of the anal bead because of the writing and the direction of the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. He did fine as a performer. You know, this guy's been nominated for an Oscar, and I think the makeup may have let him down too, just because of how restrictive it was. But at the same time, if you're going the realistic route of a burn victim, that's what happens to the skin. It tightens, it restricts movement. So in terms of being ultra realistic, they nailed it, but then you also lose that performance with a great performer. So it definitely wasn't Jackie's fault. But the inclusion of him doing stuff to the kids that was a bit more sinister than just killing them. And that was an interesting turn with the story where you think at one point he's innocent and the kids made this up. I like that. I actually thought about doing a video, and I'm still in the pipeline, like things I liked about the remake. And that was one of them. Where did the children make this up and the parents killed an innocent man, but then you find out at the end that no, he was a really, really bad man and did some horrible things to the children. So, and they originally were going to do that in the 1984 film. Wes Craven wrote Freddy as a predator and didn't just kill the kids. He did other horrible, sinister things to them as well. But there was a story going on at the time where there was a school in the States and children were being assaulted by the teachers. So he kind of sidestepped it and just made him a child killer. And there you go, guys. Those are some of your unpopular opinions. Again, thank you so much for submitting all your comments in that community tab. And don't worry, there are going to be many more unpopular opinion videos to come. I love doing these. I love talking shit with you guys. And it's just nice for you guys to be included this way as well. So today is Monday. Tomorrow, well, it's going to be Monday in the States as well, but Tuesday morning, early Tuesday morning here, we are going to get a new trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine. We're doing a reaction video to that, so I'm really excited. They also released a new poster, which is simple but beautiful. Really excited for this one. Just want to see a nice bit of footage of Jackman as Wolverine. Love you guts, and I'll catch you in the next one.